Okay, so I want to chat about something that I think is getting a little bit confused in the realm of I'm a service provider consultant and I also learn from some people and I also hire contractors and I also have employees and I serve clients in the realm of how we serve them, how we learn, and how we get work done in our own business. I think the conversation around working one on one with people, having done for you services, learning in different aspects like buying books or hiring a coach or being in a group coaching program all start to get like a little muddy when we're also in that business. You know what I mean? And so I want to
Oh,
provide
totally.
some perspectives and some clarification on the buckets that we see us providing, our clients hiring for, and really like how things can be structured to have purpose in these different containers. So today specifically, we're talking about what the heck is group coaching and when is it actually beneficial versus one-on-one coaching versus done for you services, both as the provider and the consumer.
Absolutely. Okay, so those are two very different things. So what I want to start with the more obvious things, and maybe not obvious to you, but obvious to me that there's really only if you are an industry expert, if you consider yourself a B2B consultant, if you are a service provider serving other businesses, regardless of what the end product is, you have a couple buckets happening inside your own business. So let's look
Mhm.
internal first, because I think internal is a lot easier to understand. So, what you offer, the thing you're actually selling, and the thing that I think you can charge the biggest premium for is a
Mhm.
combination of done for you services and some coaching consulting depending on your specific niche. Some of you will lean more heavy on the consulting side and less on done for you services, and some will lean more heavy on the done for you services side and less on the consulting. But the people I see getting the most results, the people I see charging the biggest premiums, are doing some sort of combination of those two.
Mhm.
And it's because of the industry you're in. People are craving the done for you aspects because of the way in which you serve.
Yep.
Um,
So I want to give a
and
tangible
so,
example. So it's like the difference
yeah,
between selling website templates and you're selling the templates and
yeah,
someone is buying those and doing everything themselves versus you design the website and here it's done, it's your website versus you design the website and also have strategic conversations about conversions and copy or website strategy to increase sales. Those are like the three kind
yeah.
of buckets I see them falling in.
And the last bucket, the one where you do an aspect of done for you and some strategy consulting aspects, that is the one that people are charging the most premium for and people are getting the most results from.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Now, let's talk about it in the sense of I'm the business owner and I'm hiring for roles internally.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So we have talked about a little bit of the difference. If you go back a couple episodes to listen to more on our thoughts on you overpaying your staff. But that being said, I think there's a couple of buckets that you will fall under. The majority of you should be at the point, if you are an industry expert and you're building a business and you have consistent clients, you may still have a couple straggler contractors that are from when you were smaller or from when you were first getting started. And the roles are probably the most confusing in your business. We need to address those and we need to
Mhm.
probably look at a restructure, but you are likely starting to build um, a small team of employees. And those employees would be core members of your staff that are doing the core services of your business.
Mhm.
You also, instead of hiring more contractors and VAs, you likely will also have a combination of people you work with to garner education, which we're going to talk about in a second, and
Mhm.
then people that are in a specific niche that
Yep.
you need done for you things. Like, for instance, it may not make sense for you to have a bookkeeper full-time on staff,
Right.
but you would hire another service provider, another consultant that is going to come in and have that aspect of done for you things where they're going
Mhm.
to clean up your books. And they may also give you some financial coaching, but maybe not. And,
Yeah.
and that's okay.
These are
And
called,
those,
I just learned this term the other day. These are called SMEs. They're subject matter expert. And so you probably
yeah,
have some SMEs in your team. Some people, I think, make the mistake in bringing some SME level task in-house. And some people
yeah,
make the opposite mistake and don't bring SMEs in-house when it is so critical to the growth of your company or your brand experience or whatever it might be. So subject matter experts, like what Abby's saying, a bookkeeper, an accountant, a financial advisor, and ads, potentially if you're running ads or marketing, things that are very niche, again, very subject
SEO
matter
expert,
defined. Right, right.
maybe a web developer for select projects, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
These are very specific people that you don't need access to all the time. They're not people
Right.
you interface with every day. If you're interfacing with them every day, then you probably need to consider, are they a part-time employee or a full-time employee? And we'll
Mm-hmm.
dive into that in a later episode in more detail. But where I want to spend some time is how you learn and how you grow
Mm-hmm.
as an owner of a company. And I think there is a misconception because you spent so much time in the beginning stages trying to learn all the things yourselves and do everything yourself, and so you're going like on the far end of the other spectrum, thinking that every time you need to learn something new that you just want someone in to come in and clean up your messes and do it for you. And that is dangerous and not always
Mm-hmm.
effective, and really does not take into account the nuances of your business
Mm-hmm.
and can be really dangerous. And so, I see some of you trying to go from buying like almost like pocket products, where like little courses, um little things on very specific areas of business. So you want to learn about Pinterest, or you want to learn about SEO or whatever. And so like you're trying to buy a small course to learn a thing and then
Mm-hmm.
go do the thing and then maybe eventually offload it to a person. But then you have these areas of your business where you get into it and I'm like, this isn't a task you need to learn how to do. This is like
No.
philosophy level stuff. This is like you growing as a human, you learning new ways of thinking, you developing yourself as a leader, as a manager,
Mm-hmm.
as an owner of a company.
Well, and let's
And
go
then
back to the way that we all know it doesn't matter which way it's delivered, the medium of content, but the way that we all learn best is by digesting content and then implementing, right? And then like turning
Mhm.
around and doing something with that. And so the reason why there are so many high level programs that are about really high level topics for your business, restructuring, learning, setting up systems, whatever, I feel like the best ones that perform are kind of what we went back to the very beginning, where part of it is done for you. Maybe there are templates provided, or there are scripts, or there are like exact roadmaps to follow. That's the done for you part, because that part has built, it's been vetted, the framework is done, it exists. Here's how you follow it. But in order to follow it, you have to implement changes to your pricing, to your packages, to your website, to your copy, to your processes. And you have to implement the things that you're learning, because ultimately, and I'm going to say it, that is your literal job.
Mhm. Yeah.
You, as the CEO founder, and we did this too. That's the only reason why I feel this passionate about saying it like this. You, as the CEO and founder, are spending way too much time learning and implementing and doing all of the tasks that you are not making enough time for the thought leadership that is absolutely critical and crucial to the health and integrity of your company and your team, the growth and profitability and sustainability of your company, so many different aspects that you are pushing off the calendar, you are not paying attention to, you are not spending time on, because all of these other things seem sexy and flashy and fun to check off the list, when those things, all of those things aren't your job anymore. The other pieces, and it's a different part of your brain, and it's a different part of like really being intentional about how you're spending your time, because sometimes in thought leadership you feel like you're not working because you're not being like busy doer clicking around the mouse and the computer and like hustling and filing and doing all of the things. So it feels different, but it is no less important. In fact, it's more important.
Right. Okay. So, with all that being said, I think it could be easy to think, well, then I just want to work with one person. Well, then I just need to work with one person on this one thing, and then I'll be good. And so here's the thing. I think really attuned CEOs
Mm-hmm.
are aware that working with one person provides a really siloed perspective and can ultimately lead to problems in their business. What one person do you need to be working with consistently? A psychologist. You need a therapist, my friends.
LOL.
You need any business owner with more than one employee needs a therapist you see consistently, um not to talk about business, but to handle the stress, to handle the holding space for other people, to handle the personal development while balancing all the life shit that's happening. And like, how do you work through that and not let it affect you at work? And it's going to affect you at work. And so, how do you do all that shit? You need a therapist. Okay. So, like,
That's your
healthy
one-on-one.
CEOs healthy CEOs need a one-on-one therapist. Um, Healthy CEOs are also super aware that putting themselves in a room with other people that have similar struggles, similar issues, similar concerns, similar things they're going
Goals.
through, the collective knowledge you can garner from there should be a leader of this group. There should
Mm-hmm.
be leaders guiding you and giving you some individualized attention along the way. But being a part of a group program, you have the opportunity to learn from the masses, and there will be things that the leader of that group could never offer you, but
Yep.
because you're in the room, you learn something from other people who are in, similar niches, but
Yep.
but also ones that are not at all in your industry. And you'll be shocked the amount of information you will just simply
Yeah.
get from being around other people of businesses of your size.
Well, and I like to think of it as, and I say this in the kindest way possible, but like for those of you who are hell bent on receiving one on one coaching to like learn new things, to me, that says that you feel like you're the smartest person in the room and that you're going to ask all the right questions and you know exactly what you need to get there. And you just don't. And that's okay. That is so freaking okay. That is actually
Well, you know what?
refreshing.
I encourage you, like, it takes maturity to get to this point, but you will benefit more from not being the smartest person in the room
Yes.
than consistently being teacher's pet long term.
It feels good to be teacher's pet. Trust us, we chased that high for so long and then we realized we didn't get anywhere. And I just like, I cannot even express to you the magic that happens in group coaching, not just for you as the consumer, right? You're in it, you're participating and you're learning. Someone's going to ask a question you didn't thought of. Someone's going to be in an industry that's not yours, but you can hack something that they've implemented that will work for you and you would have never gotten that idea somewhere else. Because again, when like it feels good to be in a tunnel, right? To be in that feedback loop of constant like validation of your ideas, and those aren't helpful. And so we also need to know when we need to remove those, like remove ourselves from those situations. But as a provider of a group coaching experience and as someone who is the leader of one, I also cannot tell you how often new ideas spark for us to make things for you because of the experience that comes from group coaching. So you're enabling everyone to rise together, to learn together, to improve themselves together and exponentially in a situation like that.
Yeah. And so I want to remind you that you, as a as someone that's a leader of a company, as you grow, you cannot be dumping all your dirty laundry on your team. And
Mhm.
thus, you need a space to work out your shit that is not in their purview,
Yep.
because you're not always going to have the answer. And I'm not suggesting, because what I don't want is you gaslighting your employees and them thinking that you've got it all figured out when you don't. It's not about lying to your team, but it is about learning something, absorbing something, growing as a human, and then coming back to be the best reflection of yourself, the best version of yourself, the healthiest version of yourself, so that your employees can feel safe, so your employees can
Mhm.
feel
Mhm.
cared for and they can trust you. But if you vent about all your financials, and you vent about all the systems not working, and you vent about clients, and like, you're going to create so much tension, because, and I
Mhm.
hate to break it to you, but your team, you can make team members friends, but it takes, you have to be so careful with how you
Mhm.
go about that, with there's so much extra required
Yeah.
to make that a
That's like a
thing.
whole other
And
conversation.
right. And so because of that, you don't just get to dump on these people. Like, they're not your BFF that you're
Right.
like calling out. You know what I mean? And so we need to start treating people with respect. And part of that starts with recognizing when things need to be dealt with somewhere else, so
Yeah.
that you can come back more
Yeah.
educated.
Okay, so let's talk about so we've been hosting group coaching programs for over 6 years, and I feel like there are ways as leaders that we've learned how to set things up to be more effective. But how, as participants in a group coaching program, how can they have a better experience? And I want to talk about best practices for you as someone who's going through a group coaching program. How do you make the most of it? Because here's what I hear constantly is, I don't feel like I'm going to get enough individualized attention. I don't feel like I'm going to get my questions answered. I feel like I'm going to be lost. So the thing that I see also is like, as soon as someone's like, okay, I can maybe be a part of a group coaching program, but how many people are there? I only want to be there if there's like 3 of us or 7 of us, or like a really intimate group. And there are definitely value in intimate focused spaces. And I absolutely understand the hesitation of being like one face in the sea of many, because it can feel like you're not going to be heard. And I also know that like sometimes it can be uncomfortable to speak up and ask questions and be vulnerable and share. So I think I want to answer this in 2 parts. The first, let's talk about best practices before you even invest in the group coaching program. What do you need to be looking out for? What questions do you need to be asking? And then once you find yourself inside one, how do you stand out? So we've talked about this before, but I'd love to hear from you. What are the things that people need to be looking out for before they even decide to spend money on a group coaching program?
Yes. So when you're looking for a group coaching program, I think it's critical that you look at how the business is operating. I don't believe that the group coaching program has to be in the same industry. Like, if you're a service provider, it doesn't mean you have to learn from other service providers. In fact, they're so distracted doing their service, you
Mhm.
may get far less attention than if you went to someone who was operating in a different business model. So I think it's more business model agnostic,
Mhm.
and more about, do you like, from what you can see, and it's hard to tell sometimes, but do you believe in the way they're running their business? Do you align with their morals and values? Are you, when you look at them showcasing aspects of their life, does that feel in alignment with the kind of life and lifestyle you're after? And it
Mhm.
doesn't have to be perfect by any means. They don't need to be your role model. In fact, I don't want you idolizing any leader
No.
that you come into the room with. But I do think it's important that, like, if you're an introvert who likes to stay at home and you'd love to just like reno your house and you know you're happy at X stage and blah blah blah, then it doesn't make sense for you to work with someone who's on a freaking private jet half the time and
Mhm,
absent
mhm,
and like
mhm,
has 17 houses, because you
mhm.
do not relate to who they are as a person,
Right.
and that's okay.
Well, and I think in the same vein, you can also get a vibe on how do you think they go about like making money and doing business, right? In the same
Yeah.
examples, if you're that same introvert and you're learning from someone who makes their money by saying yes to as many speaking gigs as possible and traveling the world and getting in front of audiences, if that's not how you want to grow your business, don't learn from someone who teaches that.
Right. And so I think it's important that you find some alignment and some middle ground, and that you really ultimately align with the person, not to the point that you put them on a pedestal, because
No.
we've watched what
Mhm.
happens when you do that.
Yep.
I do not want you idolizing anyone, but I do think there should be some aspects of the way they're doing business that you should find inspirational
Yep.
or aspirational. But I also don't want you feeling like you need to look 75 steps ahead. Like if if you have a team of 5 and they have a team of 10, like that could
Right.
be
Right.
just far enough ahead for you to really garner, because they're not
Yep.
going to be so far removed from what it's like to do business in the way you're doing business that
Right.
they're going to be able to understand the things you're going through. And so I think there has to be some alignment there.
I also think it's
Now,
absolutely fair to really dig into how can you get questions answered in the group, because we
yeah,
like we have said 10,000 times there's no one size fits all, and we like are all over the whole just plug in this formula and you're going to get the exact same
no,
results as I did. Like we all know that doesn't work. Okay. However, there is still a basis, and Abby and I have talked about this internally all the time. The stuff that we work our clients through, I could name you 30 different industries, 30 different price points, 30 different goals, but the framework that we've created and the steps that we know they need to implement apply to every single one of them. But how those steps are applied, when they're applied, what they look like is different for every single one of them. So part of this is,
mhm,
yeah, you could flat out ask the question, but part of it's also kind of just the vibe of the human being, right? In the sense of like, yes, is this group, and am I going to get feedback like for my unique situation? With the caveat being, there's not that many unique situations. Like there are
right,
still very themed buckets within like our 30 different industries and 30 different price points and whatever. Like we could do buckets of high price point one time clients, one and done, high price point retainers, low price point quick and dirty VIP day kind of clients. Like there's still buckets that we could put our people into, but I really want
yeah,
you to have a knowledge beforehand of, am I going to be completely left alone to go through this? Because I do think that there's aspects, and you guys have probably heard this term before, of like the hybrid kind of coaching model where it's like curriculum plus coaching. And to me, that's kind of like that sweet money spot of it, like in digest and then implement and then feedback, and digest, implement, feedback, and that going through that kind of loop throughout the program.
right. And so all of this to say, I we're not just saying this because we happen to run a group coaching program,
Right. We also
but
invest in
we
programs.
we've invested in so many people in so many ways. We've had a slew of generalized VAs. We've had many employees. We've hired consultants and experts. We have people on retainer that we are working with all the time. We've been in high-end masterminds where it's a small group of people. We've been in rooms where we're a part of a group coaching experience where there are hundreds of students, but there are so many opportunities for feedback and
Mhm.
for you to get personalized opportunities to get your questions answered.
Mhm.
And I can tell you without a doubt, when we're specifically talking about growing yourself as a human, growing yourself as a leader, creating systems to streamline the back end, management principles, the kinds of things we're talking about here, the having access to a group program has been instrumental, and by far the most return on our investment that we've
Absolutely.
ever seen.
Yep.
And so I think similarly, that's what we're seeing for our clients. Like within less than 3 months, we've had many clients more than 6x their investment. Um,
Mhm.
and to do that in the space of 90 days is really crazy. And some of them have
Mhm.
far exceeded that, 7, 10, 15 times return on their investment. And they still have access for a whole year.
Yeah.
And so I am beyond confident that we have created an environment meant to push people, an environment meant to let them learn from the group and the collective, and an environment that really does not hesitate to provide specific feedback. Like I'm curious when, and I say this because I just so value the time we're spending with our clients. But Emily, have you ever been in a community where someone asks a question and then a team member records a 5 to 10 minute individualized Loom response for just
No.
their one question?
Literally no. Never.
I spent 15 minutes answering two
Mhm.
Asana questions yesterday for one client, and I wouldn't hesitate to answer additional questions on the coaching
Mhm.
call this week.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I'm not going to tell that client no. Like
Right.
I want
Right.
them to get results. I want them to understand.
Yeah.
And I want to
Well,
create a room where you feel heard and
yes.
understood, but also a room that's going to push you and help you grow.
Well, and I think that segues perfectly into, okay, if you are a consumer and you're sitting in the group coaching group, how do you get seen? How do you make the best of your time there? And I think that that's a perfect example. When something that we try to teach our clients is how to ask the right question. And I think we are also used to being parts of hundreds, if not thousands, of Facebook groups. Business and life and personal themes abound. And you have the lurkers and you have the constant posters and you have people in between. But we have forgotten somewhere in the midst of that how to ask like tangible questions that get actual results. And so we try to educate and train our clients on how to actually ask questions. So, what is the question that you actually need answered? It cannot be too broad. Can you be specific? Can you link examples? How much background information can you provide? Can you set everyone up in this room who doesn't know anything about you, pretend that for a second, in order to get your question answered? And the more that we see that, the faster we're able to respond, the clearer our advice can be, the less questions we have to ask to get clarification before we can actually answer the question. And our clients are seeing results faster. And so I think if you're currently in a group or considering joining one, you just cannot hesitate to ask questions ever at all, like at all. um
Mhm.
and when you choose to ask questions, getting super clear and specific on the feedback that you actually need will help the right people respond quicker.
Yeah, like so a lot of people are going to say there's no dumb question. There while there may be no dumb question, there are vague questions that aren't going to help
Mhm.
you and aren't going to be easy to answer. So I wouldn't recommend you go into a group coaching environment and either on a call or in a community ask something to the extent of, I don't know what to do next.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
well, what have you done so far?
Yep.
What are your hangups? What is stressing you out? What, like, where's the income coming from? Because you
Mhm.
know what? Sometimes I'll have a client who like says they have a lead problem And I'm like, do you have a lead problem? Do you
Mhm.
actually have a lead problem? So like I'm willing to dig in and ask them more questions, but part of you being a good member of a group experience is being willing to ask yourself some reflection questions before you even ask what you want to ask, because oftentimes the root of it is different. And so I think for this specific example, you ask, oh, I feel like I need more leads, da 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 da. And I might push back and ask you, well, where are your current leads coming from? What's your current conversion rate of those leads? What's your current capacity? Are you booked out to that capacity? Like, because
What are we
you may
working
just
with
be up in
here?
your head about it. You may be
Yeah.
up in your head about it. Leads may not be the problem at all. In fact, you might be fully booked out and you're worried about getting more leads. Oh, okay. No,
We literally just had that conversation with a client last week.
I was like, why are you worried about more leads when you literally another client would break your current systems? Like,
Mhm.
let's work on
Mhm.
those systems first. And so, but all that to say, I am never going to hesitate as the leader, as a coach inside the incubator, from asking our clients the questions they're maybe not seeing in themselves.
Yeah.
Um, but I think for you guys to get the most benefit, whether from our program or someone else's, you have to be really willing to sit with, is this more of a mindset thing, but I'm blaming it on 75 other things?
Right.
Is
Or am I
is
just
it
seeking validation?
yeah, do I just want someone to tell me I'm doing a good job?
Mhm.
Do I do I have an actual issue, or do I just need to like feel good about my decision?
Mhm.
Do I not know what steps to take next? Or is it just a matter of I'm in a new position and I'm at a new place in my business and I don't know what's next because I'm still learning what it looks like to run a business like right now, you know?
Mhm.
And I think all of those things are amazing and
Mhm.
fine. And if you have an environment to just get that stuff out, it's really, to me, every time it's been a measure of your willingness to participate is likely the things that will rebound back to you.
Yep.
And so I'm not saying you have to attend every call or comment every day on every post.
No.
I'm not suggesting that at all. But I think if you consistently provide value, you will consistently get value.
Yep.
And that means, showing up in your area of expertise and helping other members with that area that they're not as strong in.
Yep.
And it doesn't mean giving away your services for free. I'm also not suggesting you do that, but you
No.
might be able to just set them up for success. And so I love this environment. And I will add like a little asterisk that as much as I love this environment to learn in. And I
Mhm.
would not recommend, if you are an industry expert, to try to create this environment and serve clients. I think that's a recipe for disaster and a
Yeah.
story for another day.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I just really love the idea of you getting exposed to what this looks like. So
Well, before
I
we dive into that, I have one more tip to like make the
okay,
most of your time in
let's
as
do
the
it.
consumer inside. And this is probably where we should have started because nothing else can happen unless you do this. Once you decide to make an investment, you have to block your calendar and commit to actually implementing, learning, doing, attending, spending time in the community, asking questions, everything. If you don't do that, you will literally not see results at all. I cannot tell you how many times, like, just people like, I get, again, you don't have to attend every single session and you don't have to breeze through it and be on this like super fast hair pace of going through everything, but you do need to dedicate consistent time in your calendar, block off your schedule of when you're going to digest, implement, and seek feedback, period.
Yeah. Period. And regardless of what the program's about or what the content of the program is, I have very rarely, of the best quality group programs. Now, I'm not saying all of them that I've joined have been of quality, so that's a story for another day. But the ones that have been of quality, they likely have so much available to me that I never need to consume all of it to get the value I need out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're looking at what someone is going to teach you or walk you through in a group coaching environment, I encourage you to look less at well, I don't need this aspect, but I need this aspect. Like, worry less about that. And are you confident you're going to get your return on your investment for any of it? And
Right.
more than likely, if it's a really quality program, you could like hang your pin on like
One thing.
a little teeny bit of it, and
Yep.
you would more than get what you need out of it. Um, and that's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I love when that happens for us and for our clients.
oh, 100%. So, like, I don't want you to feel like, oh, I missed out because I didn't consume
No.
all of it. No, like, some people are going to really hang on to certain aspects, and that is so okay.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
So if you guys want to learn more and dive in, what do they need to do?
Well, okay, two things. I want to give you an opportunity. Now this is for a limited time. So if you're listening to this down the line or you're watching this down the line, this may apply less. However, if you want to try on for size what it looks like to
Mm-hmm.
be in a room, what it looks like to be in a community of people that are like chatty and like adding value and asking really great questions, then I think a great way for you to just try it on is to attend our upcoming conference. On March 29th, we're going to be having a 1-day virtual conference and an optional bonus day for our VIPs. And I'll talk more about that in a second. But grab your ticket, bossproject.com/conference. In that room, you're going to have this super unique opportunity to see what it's like to be a part of a group environment. And likely there's going to be far more people there than will be on the other end of it
Oh
inside the
yeah.
group program. But you'll see what it's like to have other people asking quality questions and the vibe of it and the feel of it. Because I think so much of that feeling like you're a part of something is truly a preview of what it can feel like inside of a
Yes.
group coaching
Yes.
program. But if you're interested in working with us, the extension of this is we are inviting VIPs, those who are accepted applicants, to a VIP bonus day on March the 30th, where we are going to be really diving into what it looks like, the exact framework to double your income while working 20 hours a week or less. And if that's of interest to you, then I encourage you to grab that ticket, bossproject.com/conference, and then head over to bossproject.com/VIP,
Mm-hmm.
and let's get you inside so that you can book both days so that you can be there and you can really try on for size what it would look like and see what it would look like to work with us. We would be honored to have you, and we're super excited to expose you to what a community like this could do for you and your business.